if you're lactose intolerant, you can't watch this movie because it's got so much cheese.
Sorry, yeah, I gotta go. You guys can do this on your own now.
Nope, end it there. You agree? Hey, guys.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Joey.
Are we ready to record?
Oh, yeah, I thought
I would
that
assume
was
so.
your way of telling us, like, fuck you, we're recording now.
Me asking that was even more passive aggressive.
Yeah, you were like, so can we do this now?
Yeah. Happy for you, Kev, to have your PlayStation,
Thank
and even happier to be taking your time away from your PlayStation. So,
The happy owner of a PS5.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
super jealous.
This is the Flix Fellas time. This is our time to spend with our listeners.
What are the fellas drinking?
Tea.
Oh,
White
dude.
Claw.
My throat was
I
hurting
like
a little
the
bit,
claw.
and I got to drive later, so probably not going to drink tonight.
My self-esteem was hurting a little bit. That's why I drank the White Claw. Oh, man.
Can I say,
totally
I
fine.
think White Claws are over.
What do you mean?
No, I don't think they're over. I think the hype is over, where everyone's like, "Oh my god, like White Claws are the best." Now it's just standard. Like
But
they have
even, like,
become
it's-
standard for drinking.
Even the go-to of okay, we're going to someone's house, let's bring a 6-pack or a 12-pack. I used to always pick White Claws over beers just because I was like, oh, it's healthier, it's better. But I'm like, honestly, it's not much better than beer, and I think
No,
beers
it's like a
taste
light
better.
beer.
I think
So and it's less.
I'm
depends.
still a
There's
fan of
such
White
a-
Claws.
There's such a hangover though effect with White Claws, because it's so sugary and
No,
I don't know.
there's like 2 grams of sugar, you fucking clown.
but it's like fake sugar, and I don't know. I think
No,
that's over.
I
think we should
disagree.
cancel White Claws.
I'm pressing play on White Claws.
I'm gonna,
Kevin, I'm so impressed.
No, it's
you
just
knew
wrong.
exactly how much sugar was in White Claw. It's literally 2 grams.
Kevin, what's the Metascore of
Diabetes
this
runs
movie?
in my family, so I always know how much sugar is
He's
in
so
everything.
aware. That's your
Um,
superpower. You just know how much sugar is everything all the time.
I was gonna say though, I think high noons are replacing that kind of hype that was before. At least for me, like I'm more hyped where like I bring a bunch of high noons wherever I go, and I'm like, try these. They're so much better than White Claw.
High noons are significantly better. They're just
Yeah.
also significantly more expensive, which is the
Yes.
problem. But it's more bang
Yeah,
for
it's
your
like
buck.
$10
so,
for a 4-pack. Like that's
I
crazy.
think 12. It used
12
to be
now.
$12.
Fucking
Yeah.
Christ.
So
What's it called? I do think so. Not to detract more and talk more about White Claws, but I also want to throw my 2 cents in. I think that White Claws, when somebody said, I don't know, I think it was Kevin or Joe.
That scared the shit
You
out of
literally
me.
scared White Claws are
shit.
the new floor. White Claws are the new floor. Like everybody used to bring
Yeah.
White Claws around because like that was the change. Like it's so cool, so new, so interesting. You know what I mean? Like it's now the floor, and like High Noons and or like Twisted Teas doing their thing, or like Bud Light seltzers coming out with like crazy flavors. Like there's so many. Like White Claw made seltzer like a normal, commonplace thing. And then there's been however many people that reinvent the mold and are now like the flavor of the month. No pun
Yeah,
intended.
but they're like doing
Mhm.
it bad. Like White Claw came out with like
White
an
Claw is the
iced
most
tea.
consistent.
Did you try the White Claw iced
They're
tea?
not
It's
good.
absolutely garbage. It's the worst thing I ever drank.
I'm telling you,
Interesting.
Variety Pack 1 is still better than Variety Pack 2. I feel that's so
well, now there's
strongly.
3 variety packs, but
I don't know about that.
I digress.
We're 4
Let's get
minutes
back
into
to-
an alcohol podcast.
that's our different show.
Yeah.
For our listeners today, we are reviewing the Netflix original movie, The Woman in the Window, directed by Joe Wright, written by Tracy Letts, based on the novel by A.J. Finn, and it is starring an all-star cast of Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, Anthony Mackie, Julianne Moore, and Wyatt Russell, along with Jennifer Jason Leigh. So we have a little Falcon and Captain America reunion in this movie.
Budget Captain America.
Yes.
Who played the
US agent, Kevin.
Witch.com.
who played the psychiatrist?
That was...
Because he looks so
Yeah,
familiar,
he's in other stuff.
but I
he's
couldn't
in that,
ping,
like-
and I didn't want to look up the movie because I didn't want to spoil our game at the end,
Yeah.
so I didn't.
Do you remember his name? Because I don't
remember the
his
name, but I know that like he has played other roles that are like a similar. He's a
Ben
very
Davis?
typecasted person.
Was it Ben Davis?
It says as
DeVries.
Steve and then voice. So he was in 30 Rock. I don't recognize him from anything else.
No, I don't think it's Ben Davis. Wait, Davies or Davis? No,
Davis.
it's not Ben Davis. He's the cinematographer.
All right, well,
They don't have the psychiatrist on here.
We'll
Anyway,
figure it
let's
out.
get
I'll figure
back
it
to the
out.
movie again. Okay, first reactions. Let's shoot it to Kevin on this one.
Oh, putting me on the spot. I thought it was good. I liked it. I like horror. It was very Alfred Hitchcock, which was cool. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I thought the acting was great. I didn't have any issues with any of the actors. I liked everybody in that movie. I actually love Anthony Mackie, and we've talked about on the podcast before how we all love Anthony Mackie.
He's our biggest fan.
He's our biggest fan. And
We're his.
Wyatt Russell, I think, is a great actor too. And obviously, Amy Adams just kills whatever she does. So yeah, I thought all in all it was a good movie, like a solid watch. I wasn't disappointed. I watched it. Julia got caught, sucked into it too while we were sitting eating dinner. So I thought it was a good movie and a fun watch, a little thriller.
Okay.
James?
Now, James is not a horror fan. What did you think?
No.
It was
I wouldn't even call
light.
it. I don't think this is a horror movie. I think this is more of a thriller, is what I would call this. It's a psychological thriller, in my opinion, in my professional podcasting opinion. What's it called? So I think this movie is fantastic. I really, really like this movie. I thought that the first 40 to 45 minutes, because this movie's like an hour and a half, right? It's short.
It's short, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the runtime's 140.
I think
140 exactly, yep.
Yeah, first 30 minutes are a bit of a snooze fest, but once you kind of get into that psychological mind bender type stuff, that's where really the gold and the meat of the movie comes out. And I thought the position that put many of the main characters in this movie was super interesting. And I very quickly got I was this movie's okay, this will be a mid-tier, maybe low-tier movie. And then I got sucked in and I was I'm watching every minute of this. I love this. The acting was fantastic. I love that Anthony Mackie because I feel like Anthony Mackie's one of those actors too that'll get into a movie and he'll sell tickets just because Anthony Mackie's in it, And he had a very, very supporting role. It wasn't he was not headlined at all. It was very you just heard his voice first, and then in one or two scenes, I'm pretty sure they show his face. And I like that a lot because it's it's a big name to have in the movie, but he's not dominating the performance. And it's not just Anthony Mackie and other people, you know what I'm saying? And not that Amy Adams is Amy Adams is also huge,
I was going to say, I think of the 4 big names in this movie, 5 if you count Wyatt Russell, Anthony Mackie's probably actually closer to the bottom in respect of Hollywood classics. Amy Adams,
true.
Gary Oldman, and Julianne Moore collectively have what is it? 13 Oscar nominations between them and 2 wins. I did. That was my little fun fact.
Well, they also have 2 of them have careers in film. You know what I mean? I feel like Anthony Mackie's kind of hitting his prime.
All 3 of them have. Well, technically, they all have careers in film.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is they're I would say Gary Oldman and Amy Adams are closer. Not Amy Adams as much, but who's the other one? The
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Both of them are kind of towards they're in a different. They're not in the prime of their careers, I don't believe anymore. They definitely
they're just more established. I think they're
Julianne Moore and Amy Adams both were nominated for Oscars. I think last
year. Yeah,
really? Right. Well, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I guess. But I'm saying is I guess you're right.
What do you consider their prime? Just because they're not young?
Yeah, I guess that's maybe what
that's
I'm
exactly
thinking
what
is no, 100%, because I'm thinking of them in roles where they are young, right? And I'm they're losing the ability to play those roles, therefore they're out of their prime. But you're right that they're actually transferring into new other roles that they can excel at. So I'm incorrect. You know what I mean? They very well could have not hit. Kevin celebrates every time that I admit that I'm wrong. But ultimately, to get back to the movie, great time, fantastic movie, amazing showing of acting, and definitely a star-studded cast. Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I was skeptical going into it because I know I picked it, but I thought it was going to
Joey
be.
picks are usually risky picks.
They're usually on the edge. But I thought it was going to be a little bit like cheesy, kind of cliche. And in the very beginning, like James said, the first like 30 minutes or so, it does really pound down that like vague horror film, psychological thriller genre where like nothing is ever really said. It's all just kind of like talking in whispers of like shadows of like they don't really tell you much up front. It's just kind of like it's just very vague, I should say. And they pound down this like psychological thriller effect. But even with that, it like still kept my attention the whole time. I never thought I was like bored or drifting or it was like, oh, how much longer? I thought it was actually really good. And there's a lot of surprises in this movie. And I think that if you are a psychological thriller person who can handle some gore and some horror,
definitely some gore,
then this is a good movie for you. So
I can say definitely too that they do a good job with the like. There's a bit of a twist here. You know what I mean? There is a bit of a twist in the movie, and the fact they do a very good job of like putting it in front of you, hiding it, and then like pulling it back out. You know, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that. So we'll talk about that in the next section before we spoil anything.
Yeah.
But let's get your guys' ultimate reactions. Kev?
Play.
Play? Okay.
Yeah, play. It's I'm not like jumping at hitting play. Like it's a good movie though. Like it's definitely one of the better ones we've watched as of late. So yeah, I'm hitting play. Good date night movie, a little horror night movie. We're coming into October. It's getting to spooky season. It's a good time, so hit play.
James, what are you doing?
I am going to click play. This was a fantastic movie. Very fantastic showing of acting. Awesome story. And it was very immersive. I thought they did a very good job of using, not like, they didn't have to like lean on any kind of extensive effects. Like I think the set was very contained intentionally and done very well. So, really, really liked it. Joey, what do you think?
Yeah, this is my first, I think, confident press play of the season. And I think we're all on the same board. I feel like Kev is going to change his mind by the end of this one. I don't know why. He just seems iffy. But I enjoyed it.
Guy.
I'm a press play. I think this was worth the watch. And we'll get into the spoilers in the next section. Stick around or keep scrolling.
Don't.
We can't do anything about it.
Nah, click. We love you guys. Stay around.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for coming back. Real quick PSA. Please make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, as that helps us a lot get viewers. And make sure to turn on notifications for the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review because it really means a lot to us. And we appreciate positive feedback. So,
and you're legally obligated to. I checked with my lawyer. I checked.
That is false information.
That is false information.
As most stuff James says is.
Rude.
And with that, James, why don't we go to you? Let's start talking some of the nuts and gritties,
go to me.
Nitty gritty of the episode.
I have something to say about this movie.
No, shut
I have
Kevin
thoughts.
I have
my
something
show.
to say. No, this is something very important to say about this movie.
Okay, Kevin,
right,
let's start with you. What's your important message?
It's Rear Window, right?
Yes.
But
literally the exact
but here's my issue.
modern
Okay, so
interpretation.
Of my Hitchcock, and I like horror, so I'm ashamed to say I haven't seen many Hitchcock movies. I obviously know of Hitchcock, and I know of the movies he's made. I've really only seen, like, Psycho, but I still love Psycho. But I hadn't seen Rear Window. I knew what it was. I knew what it was about. And I watched this, and I was like, it's Rear Window. And then I was talking to my parents after, because they put it on right when I put it on. And we were talking about it, and my dad was like, this was Rear Window. And I wanted to look it up to see if it drew like inspiration from Rear Window, right? So I went to the Wikipedia page without looking at the Metascore. I had Julia go to the Wikipedia page, and there's no mention, like absolutely no mention of Rear Window as inspiration for this film. All it mentions is the book that it's based on.
Yes.
And then I did some more research. Hey, maybe the book is based on Rear Window because the book came out in like the 2000s. that book has nothing to do with Rear Window. So the book had like sued the movie for plagiarism, but I'm like, did the book plagiarize Rear Window? Who fucked Rear Window in this situation?
Wait, you mean the book sued this movie?
Yeah, there was like some like drama about this movie, like, or no, I'm sorry, the book, The Woman in the Window, might have plagiarized another book from the early 2000s.
Oh, okay. I was
And
going to say
then-
the author of that was
Right,
credited
I'm
as a
sorry.
writer for this movie.
There was like controversy around The Woman in the Window book plagiarizing another book called like, I forget what it was called. And then, but that book had nothing to do with Rear Window. But I was like, this movie is literally Rear Window.
Yes. It's very annoying and frustrating that I did the same thing. I was trying to look up like some inspiration, and there's no kind of credit to Hitchcock or Rear Window, or to be like, oh, they got their inspiration from this. Like, for
But
those
the
of you that don't know,
cinematography
like,
is so Hitchcock.
yeah, it's straight up like, if you haven't seen Rear Window, it is about a older gentleman who like breaks his leg and can't go to work, so he's like stuck in a wheelchair for a couple weeks, and to keep himself entertained in the pastime, he literally looks into the apartment building
fucking
next
stop.
to him, and it's basically like one of those like
In Manhattan, too.
In Manhattan.
People
So
say it's
there's,
his
like,
best work. I've
8
never seen it.
different. You never seen Rear Window?
Mm-mm.
Oh, how do you know so much about it?
I literally looked everything up. I knew about Rear Window. Like, I knew what it
Oh,
was
you just
about.
knew about
There
it.
was a
Okay.
dude in a weird wheelchair. I just never
Yeah.
seen it.
I actually watched it in film school, and it's basically like very kind of like cliche. Like, you see like 6 different blocks of like people's lives going on, and you just see that like one little aspect of their room, and
Oh, that's cool.
that's essentially what this movie is too. Whereas instead of her being crippled by physically, she's crippled mentally because she has agoraphobia, which is a fear of leaving the home, and which we find out later why she has that fear. What did you guys think about that? Did you guys think that you were curious about that in the beginning and like it just wasn't answered, or did you think that was going to come back and play a role into something?
I thought that especially when this movie was released, like, I think that this is a very interesting psychological, psychological condition that is becoming more commonplace, especially, post COVID, or not even post COVID, like, we're still in COVID, but like, things have been relaxed. I feel like agoraphobia is more common now. You know what I mean? Because like there is a general risk, right, of like leaving the home. So it was interesting to see I guess, like the extreme of, you know what I mean? Like people, because like obviously you see people that are like, oh man, I can't wait to get out, and like do like whatever you can while you can, you know what I mean? Like somebody that's completely on the other end of the spectrum, and not that it's like it's obviously a condition that people deal with. Like it's interesting to see the story being told from that point, because it's something that at least I as a person have not experienced before. You know what I mean? Like you have like, definitely during COVID, you have like an ambient anxiety of like your exposure, right? Because you don't want to expose people around you. But that's honestly like the only feeling of that I can relate to this movie and that condition that I've ever had to deal with,
Yeah, it makes sense because, like you said, during the pandemic and lockdown, like a lot of people's entertainment was just looking out the window, and then you see your neighbors walking, you see the dogs, you see the animal, like stuff like that. Like that was very relevant to today's
Like I
world
thought it was
and norm.
interestingly topical.
Yeah.
I liked the use of it before I knew that this drew new inspiration to from Rear Window. I was like, oh, this is a cool like idea of the Rear Window concept. Like rather than a wheelchair, she literally cannot leave her house.
Mhm.
I felt like they kind of forgot about it for a little bit. Not like necessarily forgot about it, but, and we'll talk about this more towards the end. Remind me to bring up this point again, but I feel like they could have used it more at the end or made it more impactful at the end, because something happens and it didn't really impact me as much. I almost forgot that she couldn't like leave the house. So, but I thought it was interesting. Like I thought, I just thought it was an interesting way to do it before they said that there was no inspiration to Hitchcock. So
Okay, so Kev is really upset that there's no inspiration to Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Moving on.
Kevin's like,
It's just
it was
weird. It's
interesting.
just
I know,
weird
it's
to
very
me.
weird
I'm
because
blown
it's
away.
the same concept. and
definitely-
That I can't find anything about it.
But
Yeah.
I don't feel like that cheapens the movie because I do feel like it's like, again, I don't know much about Rear Window other than, like brief,
What we
because
just
I
told
did
you?
try to kind of yeah, well, what you just told me, and then like I tried to do some like before we started watching the movie, I tried to do like, you know what I mean, like what, where does this come
Inspiration,
from kind
research,
of thing.
yeah.
Exactly. And I didn't do as much as Kevin did, but like I think like this, and again, I didn't watch Rear Window, so I'm speaking from a place of ignorance, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I feel like this movie, just because it's not exactly the same thing, like I did think that this still had like relevance and quality in it.
Yeah, and I think Hitchcock is very kind of like not dying out, but there is less interest in his movies, and they're not like as easily accessible. So there's a lot of people who haven't seen it, and it is new, and the concept is new to them. So
yeah,
let us just let you know that this is not a new concept. Now,
plus like Star Wars literally rebooted their first movie, and like they sold fucking houses.
It was quite literally a new
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
okay, so now back to the story of this movie. Early on, we hear Amy Adams is alone in her house. She's on the phone with her husband, Ed, who is played by Anthony Mackie, and she's also talking to her daughter, Olivia. It's all done over voiceover. You never see her talking on the phone. This happens very early on. It's one of maybe the first couple scenes that we hear this kind of storytelling component. What did you guys think about that? Because my first reaction was I don't like the voiceover combo without like seeing any of it. And then obviously my note later on in the movie comes back was like, okay, I get it. But
Yeah,
did
I get
that
it.
confuse you guys, or did that just like?
I got
Fire.
it off the bat. Like what they were trying to do with the voiceover, right? I understood they were trying to play the game of, like, they wanted to make you think he was still alive and that these were current conversations. But I kind of saw. I mean, Jewel saw through it right away. She was like, "Can I spoil here? Can I?" Even though we're not talking about the end.
Yeah, go
you guys,
for it.
we're in the spoiler.
Yeah,
section,
I mean,
so
she
then
literally
yeah.
said, Julia literally said right off the bat, like, he's dead. And I was like, yeah, he's either dead or these are old phone conversations.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was like, did a great job at like hiding that. But, yeah, I got what they were trying to do with the voiceovers. Like, I wasn't like blown away, but did you guys feel, I felt like the whole beginning of the movie like felt surreal. Like it felt fake. Like what she was going through was fake. And I think that was probably intentional, but that kind of played into the voiceovers. Like everything felt fake. Like either she was making it up in her head or something was going on.
I think
It
that was
felt
intentional. I
very
think
surreal.
that they wanted
yeah,
you
for
to
sure.
think she was hallucinating and she was having these like psychotic breaks, and that's the voiceovers definitely played a factor in that. I didn't catch that they were dead right away. It didn't occur to me. I was just annoyed that because they were having current conversations. Like they were talking about the current issue of this new family who moved in across the street that she becomes obsessed with. And like in my mind, I was okay, these can't be memories. So they're just like delusions.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you realize
But
that
I
they're
didn't
delusions
think-
afterwards, but you don't think that in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment you just think that like I honestly like I think I'm a very good proponent for the stupid moviegoer because I 100% was like, oh no, they're just like separated and they're talking on the phone or something like that, you know? And like he still cares about her, but like they're separated for, you know, like she obviously has things that she's working through. He probably has things that he's working through, and I don't know the situation, but like for some reason they're not in the same place. They're still talking on the phone. I think that they did a very good job, and like kind of leading into like what you were saying, Joey, is like this is another point they use to kind of like pivot you to not believe or like undermine the opinion and position of the main character, which I thought was a very, because usually I feel like especially when it comes to movie storytelling, right, like you're writing like sidecar to the main character and you're understanding more about the world as the main character is progressing through the storyline, whereas in this storyline you are doing the same thing, but it's introduced probably like 40-30 minutes in, and that's kind of where I really started getting engaged in the movie, is the main character's perception may not necessarily be true. So even though that this information has been proposed to you as fact, that like they themselves are undergoing some kind of delusion based on the medication that they're taking and, you know, whatever else is going on, you know.
Yeah, and they definitely want you to question that this whole time.
I love that. That's
Question
so
like,
cool.
is she really seeing these things? Is she like having these conversations? What's going on in her mind?
It's very Shutter Island. Like it's like that. That's the vibe it gives me. Is like it's a very like Shutter Island is very like that. It's probably, at least right now, is like my favorite twist of any movie ever. You know, that I've ever seen.
I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
I agree. That's a great
Great
take,
movie.
James.
Yeah.
It's like they kind of draw on the same thing where it's like the reality that you, and again, this is going to be a spoiler for Shutter Island, but the reality that you are seeing is not necessarily reality. It's the perception of this person's reality. You know?
Yeah. I think that's I think you hit that nail on the head on that one. What they were trying to go for is like a perception of reality. Like who's this real or is it not? And I think they did a really good job like with cinematography and like all that on how they like serve that up to you, right? Like I think they did a pretty good job. Obviously it's not Shutter Island, but they did a good job.
So I want to go back to the plot of this movie because I feel like we've just been talking a lot about concepts and not really giving too much detail. But the plot of this movie is that Amy Adams, Anna Fox, the main character, is an agoraphobe, can't leave the house, and she becomes obsessed with this new family, the Russells, who move in across the street. Now, while they are moving across the street, there's also another character, David, played by Wyatt Russell, who is her tenant that lives in the basement. So there's occasional times in this movie where there's sounds going on, there's people coming in and out of the house. Like, she's not scared of people, which I also was a little thrown back by. I thought, like, as somebody who's agoraphobic, she wouldn't want people in her home, because I also thought maybe she was like, I think subconsciously my thought was about COVID, like, oh, she was scared about germs or just like people as a threat. And that's why, like, it was a little weird when, like, you see David come in the house and you see Julianne Moore's character come in the house, and then you see Ethan come in the house. Like, there's just all these characters coming into the house, and it kind of feels like a play because the whole movie takes place in, it's a singular home, but there's multi-levels to the home. So you're not in the same room the whole time, like Rear Window, but you are kind of in a sole location that is not changing like dramatically. But
I have a point on the set that you were about to say, Joey. So like I love the fact that this entire movie was filmed in a house. Like it didn't feel repetitive or like annoying or, you know what I mean? Like I was never focusing on the setting because there was so much going on with like the character, you know, that it distracts from the fact that like I finished the movie and I'm like, wow, that was a fantastic movie. And then like I think about it and I'm like, she left her home like twice, like, or once. She literally left her home one time and like, or twice. Once at the end of the movie, once in the middle. Yeah.
The first time she leaves,
she didn't leave.
She passes out before she like gets to the bottom step, and then the second time she gets to the street, and then you see that she's in the hospital. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like I think I like.
And she technically leaves at the very end.
And then at the very end, she's technically.
So I think that the fact that the movie itself was entertaining and didn't feel repetitive or whatever, it speaks to how well they told the story in a sandbox, you know?
Yeah. Which I'll agree. I never felt like it was repetitive. I never felt like confused as to why we're in the house. I did feel though like there was a lot of people. It's a big house. They said the neighbor's house sold for $5.5 million. They wanted $6 million. So like I'm assuming she has a similar house, and it's probably just expensive.
This take place like Brooklyn,
New York,
or something,
Manhattan. I think Manhattan. But
where like a decent sized house is like fucking $10 million, you know?
Yeah.
Like not a decent sized house, but like a big house is like $10 million. Like
a box is worth $10 million, and this is like a 4-story basement included, like rental unit.
It's like a very old like city home that they did, like in Philly we have them, but like in like where you are, Joe, they have a ton of those that they like cut up and put walls in and made like into 4 separate apartments, but like some of them are just these big open fucking buildings inside that just go for stupid money.
Yeah. But my point is like there's just a lot of people just coming in and out of her house. Like, how often,
Yeah.
especially in New York, are you just letting like strangers come in? Like, she just lets Ethan come in the beginning. She lets
Ethan's like the kid across. Well, the thing is like because she's a stalker, she does have the base information. Like, oh, this is the kid that lives across the street. And
Also,
like,
she was a child psychologist,
Yeah,
so she's not going
exactly.
to turn away a kid in distress. But
True.
it is weird that she was just
It is weird.
like... And the other time she fainted, so it's not like she deliberately let these people into the house.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels
People
like she
were
has
just
no
letting
control over.
themselves in.
Yeah, she has like no control over her own home. Even when
Yeah.
the cops come to investigate, like, they bring the entire family with them.
Oh,
They don't.
yeah.
They're not like,
Yeah.
let's question
That
her
was
separately.
sloppy
Also,
police work.
That was,
It was
very sloppy police work.
It was very weird that like the guy across the street could just like fucking barge in whenever the cops are there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
He's like,
sirens,
you can
my
hear
time
it
to
from
shine.
his- yeah, he sees the cop cars out front, and he's like, I'm gonna go talk some shit in there. And he goes marching across the street.
They're like Gary Oldman, and he's like this fucker.
Oi, this fucker.
Oh. Also, nobody had a New
speaking-
York accent. There was nobody who had like a
No.
thick
No.
New York
It was a
accent.
very neutral. It was very neutral.
Even Gary
Who
Oldman
has
had like a
New
British
York
accent.
anymore. If you're living in
Yes.
those fucking swanky houses, you're probably
It's true.
A
not
transplant.
from New York anyway. Speaking of the cops, though, the guy who played the main detective was really good too.
Yes, Brian
And
Tyree
he's going to
Henry.
be in he's coming in an upcoming Marvel movie, and I'm super excited to see him.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Really? Which one?
Yeah, he's in
Which movie?
Eternals.
You heard it here 1st
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. I broke
Marvel
the news.
gave us the announcement.
They gave me the inside scoop.
Exclusive.
And literally, this episode, the movie will probably be out by the time this episode comes out.
Johnny Marvel gave me a call on the phone.
But yeah, that was shitty police work by them, just letting people in. But
Also, how shitty of a police detective was Detective Norelli? Like, she
Oh,
just
she
sucked.
sucked.
she was a
She was
Yeah,
such
jerk.
a
She's
like.
she's like,
Such
your
an
family's
asshole.
dead, and you're like, I have, you're like,
She was like, "What family? They're dead."
yeah. Exactly.
She's like, "Did you kill your neighbor or something like
Yeah.
that?" I was
like
what?
right away.
Like,
like,
I'm
she-
agoraphobic. I've never
I
left
can't
my
leave.
house.
It was
I
so
wish I
bizarre.
could.
Yeah.
I also thought that the therapist was going to come in and play a bigger role and be like,
Mhm.
"Here's what's going on," like and then kind of make her seem more crazy. But like, I guess she did a good enough job of that on her own. To the
That would have been so much of a twist, like too many twists to put in. I'm glad. I get
no, not like
they could have, but it just would have been like, ugh. Like he's forcing her to be delusional. Fucking primate,
yeah.
right? Like, they do that shit
like, there's
all the
enough
time.
Twists. There's enough
Yeah.
twists. Like, and I think that like they do a good job of having like he is a plot device in the fact that he challenges that perception. Like he's like, hey, you need to take these pills and you can't drink, and you like actively see Amy Adams' character drink the entire movie. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it feeds into the delusion. You know,
Mhm.
she
Yeah.
like the hallucination because she like I think it's him or her that just says like blatantly like, hey, if you take this with alcohol, it causes the like
hallucinations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit more further into the movie, some more of the plot twists. Like we said, Amy Adams' character eventually leaves the house because it's being egged on Halloween night because she doesn't have candy out, and
Yeah.
she faints, and this woman ends up helping her, brings her in, and she wakes up to this woman who she presumes to be Jane Russell, played by Julianne Moore, in her house.
The wife of the neighbors.
The
across
wife of the
street.
neighbor, yes. Did you guys catch on right away that it wasn't her?
Nope.
So I knew something was up, but I thought it was her.
'Cause-
like, I
Yeah,
definitely
there
thought-
was something weird about the interaction, and but I just chalked it up to like everything felt surreal, like before, like I said before, everything felt kind of fake anyway. So the fact that the interaction was strange and uncomfortable, I just chalked up to the pills and the fact that like they've already established that
See,
something is going on.
I thought about that too, and then I was like, no, if it would be weirder if I would get that if it was like weird in her perception, but like the way she said like,
Right.
oh, you must be Jane Russell,
Mhm.
and she goes, what would make you say that? Like, and then like
Mhm.
leaves the scene where so she couldn't be questioned again, and then she talks about her son who like she does eventually say Ethan, but she takes a very long time to say
But it is her son.
And-
like, that
and-
It is her son, but
it is
in my
but-
mind I was like, oh, she's just like pretending to be her just to like get information, maybe steal some money, do something, but like it was
So who the fuck-
so
That's
vague.
pretty good that you picked up on that because I didn't at all, and it really they do throw a lot in your face now that I think about it. The locket, she only had a picture of him as a baby. And she was saying, my baby.
Yeah.
And like the fact that she said, and they highlight that when the reveal happens, but the fact that she said, "What makes you say that?" But I think they did a good job. The fact that the prior to, like, everything felt strange anyway, like normal things felt strange.
Mhm.
So this seemingly strange conversation I chalked up as it's probably normal, and she's just kind of delusional, the main character, Anna. So
Yeah.
I think they did a decent job hiding that, but kudos to you, Joe, for having your movie detective hat on.
Yeah, I was very confused by the third woman, like, because apparently, right, because there's 3 women that died, right? There's the one
In Boston.
In Boston, there's Julianne Moore, and
Mhm.
then he tries to kill. Spoiler: he tries to kill Amy Adams' character, right? Like he's the third.
Before you say he, we haven't announced who the killer is, so
Yeah,
let's not say it because there was 2 other people who I thought were the killer.
Yeah,
Before I realized who it
let's
was.
keep going where we were going with this. What were you confused about, James, as far as the people who died?
Who
or
was
do
the
you wanna
first
wait?
person? I thought the first person was the person that was actually his
Chronologically, the first person to die was the woman in Boston, and then they
Yes. Who
moved
was
to.
That was
It was the
Gary
assistant,
Oldman's
the personal
Alstairs assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the woman that he was married to. That was
No,
in
there
the
was
room.
no
No,
like. There's no
that's
real
Jane
motive
Russell.
for that
So
woman.
there's 4 women. We're talking about 4 different women, right?
There's 4
Yes.
different main women in the movie
Yes.
in the conspiracy
Yes.
of this all.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Now I understand. That's why I
Now-
was confused.
That was a really good moment in the movie where I was like, when the wife walks in and she's like, "I'm Jane Russell,"
Mhm.
and
What
you're
the
like,
fuck?
"What the fuck is going on?" I think that's when the movie got to be like, "Okay, I'm in." Like now, like they've kind of set everything up, and it, like James said, it's kind of slow, and then she dies, and you're like, "That's crazy." But we knew this movie was about like her trying to solve a murder, so like you expect someone to die.
At
And
some point, there's a
then when
murder.
someone comes in and says, "No, I'm her," you're like, "All right, now we're in for some twists and turns." Like, let's
So
go.
let me ask you guys something because I'm assuming the answer is no. Did you guys watch the trailer for this?
No,
Mm.
Okay, so that's what I don't
I try
like about
not
picking.
to for the podcast.
Yeah, I watch
I
them when
saw
I'm
the
trying to pick
synopsis.
what movie I want to watch, but that scene where she says "I'm Jane Russell," that's in the trailer, and that's what
Oh,
I was
that
annoyed about because
sucks.
like I
Stupid.
didn't know that.
You
That
gotta
sucks.
join like my squad, dude. I just like scroll through and see a Netflix original, and like I just read like the little
The little
synopsis,
log line,
and I'm like,
yeah,
that's it. Let's go. And I usually
why you pick
pick like
shitty
some
movies.
weird ass fucking things like the Ice Road.
yeah. But yeah, so if you, not that we haven't spoiled everything already, but don't watch the trailer if you plan on watching this movie and don't want
Yeah.
spoilers.
I try. I feel like that's a huge thing now too. Like I maybe it's always been like this, but like something I'm realizing more as I'm kind of getting in more to movies and I'm focusing more on like what's going on. Like when you watch movie trailers, they do really give a lot of like, yeah, there's a lot
Movie
that can be
trailers have
inferred.
become so bad. Even though I love watching Marvel movie trailers because I just
Yeah.
need to watch
Well,
them.
it's hype as
but they've
fuck.
become like so bad at spoiling stuff, James. Like you can watch. I'll send you guys. I'll post it in the Flix Fellas Hangout Discord. Join our Patreon. Contribute to our Patreon. You can join. Well, you can join our Discord anyway. Just join our Discord. Anyway, I'll post the link to like the trailer for Alien in like the 70s, and it
Mhm.
had like you have no idea what this movie's gonna be about, but like it does a good job at like making you want to see what
What's
this
gonna
is gonna
happen.
be about. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you want to go watch it. Now it's like fucking everything gets. I mean, now we
Well,
know Doc Ock is in this next Spider-Man.
Yeah,
movie.
that was
like,
ridiculous. That was
yeah.
absolutely absurd. Like, am I hyped for the next
Cool,
fucking
yeah.
Spider-Man? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I love that Doc Ock is there. But I would have loved for, like, the bridge to be falling, he turn around, and you see, like, the claw, and you're like, no fucking way. You
Yeah.
know?
In the defense of this one, though, I think that's something that happens kind of relatively early in the movie, or
Yeah,
like
it does.
relatively
I mean, it's-
early in the plot of the movie. That like, the whole point is that you're trying to figure out who this woman is. Like, is she really Jane Russell? Is she some sort of actress? Is she some sort of hostage? Like, what is her deal? And I think that, like, in the trailer, it's to help sell that, like, oh, we don't trust Anna Fox, Amy Adams' character, to be all psychologically there.
Because if anything, I guess, like, if there was no spoiler or was no inclination of what happened, it would just be, like, a movie about, like, you know, I guess it would be, I think they could get away with not
a
saying
stalking
that,
woman
though.
who gets obsessed with
But
her
what I'm
neighbors.
saying is just, like, that is 35 minutes into the movie. And that's, like, they do, like, the 35 minutes is all set up, right? Like, it's prologue to set up the rest, like, the characters and the plot of the movie. Like, I wouldn't even say the first 30 minutes is really plot. It's just like it's like the interlude to a book, you know, and then the book happens when the murder happens, because that's the story that they're telling, right? Yeah.
Which, that was the other thing. It's very, like, assumed by Anna that Gary Oldman's character is the murderer. But did you guys also notice that, like, there's very clearly no other person seen in the actual, like, time of death?
Yeah, well, no, because you don't see the person standing behind a pillar. No, you see them
behind.
I thought it was David. I honestly thought, like, you know what I mean? Like, for some reason,
once they showed the earring, then you're kind of like, they did a good job of, like, kind of
moving the hats.
I think that's, like, a difficult part of, like, making a movie like this, is you have to lay kind of like eggs or like little
Easter
like
eggs,
treats, little things to make you think it might be someone else. Like, how do you do that? I think that's probably super hard for, like, a writer or a director or anybody creative to kind of think about how these different people, like, you have to get in everybody's heads in the movies when you write these characters and then write these plot points. So that was good, like, because I did the same thing, James. I was like, oh, could it have been him? Could he have had a reason? He was over there, so, like, you know.
So my thought was, like, okay, like, I thought it could be David from the very beginning. And then I was like, okay, they're really, like, making him seem like a bad guy now. But he has the prison rep, he has anger issues, he's aggressive.
He was, like, sweating in the basement. Remember that? And someone was in the basement, and you're like, what's going on down there?
Well, that was her.
I know that was her, but, like, you didn't know that.
You didn't realize.
Point. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
He just, like, is very suspicious.
But you didn't know it was her. I knew there was someone down there.
I was like, that's her.
I thought it was her too. Yeah. But he's very suspicious. And then when they show the earring, I'm like, okay, he's not the murderer, because now they're just, like, really trying to make you think it is.
It's too heavy.
My thought was that him and Julianne Moore were in some sort of cahoots as, like, Bonnie and Clyde type of situation. Like, they were going to try and kill her for her money, because he just recently moved into their basement. He, like, just came into her life kind of, like, recently, that she all of a sudden came out of nowhere. Like, I had my suspicions that she wasn't the real Jane Russell from the beginning, that I was like, okay, something seems to be weird about them two combined.
Yeah.
I didn't
realize that.
She invited herself into the house like she was already familiar with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like when she picked herself up off the street, you know, or when she picked up I keep forgetting Amy. What's Amy Adams' character's name?
Anna.
Because I feel like I do this all the time with movies. Is like, if there's, like, a notable actor or actress, like, I just, like,
it's just Amy Adams.
Yeah, it's just Amy Adams.
Well, and that's what I like about Gary Oldman's character, is that I didn't think he looked like himself.
Gary Oldman, at least in the beginning, is the king of doing that. Like, you don't realize you're watching Gary Oldman
Sirius
movie
Black
until someone tells you it's Gary Oldman. Yeah. Sirius Black. I just spit all over the place. Sirius Black, and then fucking Detective Gordon, and then just some fucking executive whose wife got fucking murdered or whatever. Like,
I think he plays Winston Churchill too at one point.
No,
there's another
Darkest Hour. Yeah, in Darkest Hour.
I was like,
I forgot that was Gary Oldman that played Winston Churchill.
Yeah,
wow. That's what I'm saying. Like, he just always looks different.
He's definitely not. I take everything about that Prime conversation back. I was 100% wrong.
Yeah, I think he's still
could not have been more wrong.
But
no, but I honestly think that, like, they did a good job. And again, like, that's the sleight of hand. You know what I mean? It's the sleight of hand of storytelling, like writing in a good hook and a good punch and hitting you. They hit us with the twist at the perfect time, because you felt like there was like a climax, a settling of the climax, and then like intrigue that, like, the story may go on, and then they hit you with the twist. Like, it's like they, like, perfectly prime you and set you up to, like, punch you in the gut with, like, oh, this is happening, you know?
Well, because you're still kind of guessing up until you see him, because once I guess we're getting kind of that climax, right?
Yeah.
And you get to the point where she's about to kill herself, and
Yes.
she's getting all prepared.
That was so dark.
She films the video, and then David comes home, and you're like, oh shit, he is the one he is the killer,
Yeah.
and now he's gonna be mad. And then once you hear all the commotion outside, you're like, oh fuck, it's not David.
Somebody
And
else.
David
Yeah,
just got
somebody just
murked.
killed David. Yeah.
Who
Whoever it
killed
was
David?
just fucked him up.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job where you're like, you don't 100% know until you know,
Yeah.
which is always fun in a movie, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, everybody basically gaslights Anna, right? They come in, like, everybody that knows what the fuck is going
Yeah.
on comes in and tells her that, like, she is delusional. Like, they
Yeah.
convince her that she is delusional, right?
Yeah.
The literal truest form of gaslighting.
Is
Um,
gaslighting
and then-
the theme of like 2020 and 2021 movies?
It's a
Like,
super
is that,
easy
like...
villain trope. It's like a super easy, because it's such like a fucked up manipulative thing that like can happen, that like is a really easy way to define villains or like a morally like bad character for someone that's like engages in gaslighting, because like you're like manipulating the perception of an innocent person or like
Right.
a genuine person to like believe your manipulation.
But everything's been gaslighting lately. Like that
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman show,
Mhm.
he was just
Undoing.
gaslighting literally everybody.
Yeah.
Isn't that You show? Isn't that very
That's-
heavy in like
yep.
gaslighting?
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like
Well, it's just
that
manipulation.
clickbait
It's
show
all-
sounds like a lot of gaslighting. So I don't know. I haven't watched clickbait yet.
Yeah,
but
well, I think
it
I'm in the
seems
middle
to
of it.
theme now.
Yeah.
it is a very popular villain. Like, it's a very popular villain trope right now because it's a very easy villain trope, and it seems. I think it seems deeper than it is. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's something that like it's an easy, in the same way that like you're kind of unfolding what goes on in this movie, right? Like, you can tell the story from the point of the main character that is being gaslit, and then have this reveal later because a main point of the story is they're being gaslit. You know, like it inherently gives you a twist for good storytelling, you know? So that's my thought, is like, it's just like, it's something that like came out and was like, oh, that's a really cool story beat. And then like a bunch of people capitalized on it. And because it's not like,
It's a
I
newer
didn't learn that
storyline.
term. Yeah, I didn't learn that term until I was at least 20, you know? So it was
Everyone
like,
was gaslighting you into not knowing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a really interesting story beat. I obviously don't want it to get overused, but I think it's like very well. It's a fun story. It's not a fun story, obviously, but it's a deeper character to tell. You know, I think
It's better than just the standard like, oh, this
He's
person's
bad.
sick in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
yeah.
but I think it's time we announce who the murderer is.
It's Joey.
And it was me all along.
Weird cameo.
No. There is, which we got to talk about this character for a little bit because we haven't talked about him at all.
At all.
But
Which will let you know who it is.
Yes.
If you watch the movie.
yes, because we've talked about every other character. The son, Ethan Russell from across the street, who is one of the first characters outside of Anna who we actually meet and talk to and hear dialogue from. And he comes off as this kid who has autistic tendencies, I would
Yeah.
say. And
Like
you would
somewhere
think
on the
he,
spectrum, kinda.
you think
I
he's on
thought
the
so.
spectrum, maybe
Yeah.
some sort of trauma in his past, some sort of kind of like secrets or uncomfortableness
Well,
about him.
You're led to believe that he's being abused, you know?
Yes.
Like very,
Yeah.
like they
That's what I'm
make
saying,
that
like,
point.
They make
Yeah.
it seem like he's on the spectrum, but also like has some sort of like actual trauma that happened to him.
Well, you
outside
see
of
his,
biology.
like, Gary Oldman fucking slap him, like
Yeah.
open hand, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think that's because Gary Oldman knows what he did in the past. Like he knows that he
Mhm.
killed his assistant and
Yeah.
is covering for him.
It's like a
Um,
whole fucked up situation.
Yeah. But Ethan comes into the house and has this whole elaborate story and persona made up that he is there to deliver a candle for Anna Fox as some sort
He's
of
just casing the joint.
yeah. He's basically just casing it. He's getting to know her a little bit, trying to build her trust because he also knows a little bit of her backstory as a child psychologist who isn't agoraphobic, and that interests him. And although I never really suspected him, I'd be lying if I said I did. I thought there was a lot of weird things that he said that made me question, like, what else is going on? Like, there's a line where he literally says, "I like cats' tongues," and I was like, "That's weird." And then
well, I mean, you chalk it up to like he's like undergone a lot of trauma.
Yeah. But then the second part was when she tells him that she's a child psychologist, and he gets so fixed on it. He's like, "What kind of psychologist? Like trauma, like gun shootings, school shootings, like murders?" Like
That's
he gets
very.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I forgot.
I didn't think about it until after I found out he did it. I was like, "Oh right, there's like there's some good cues to be like he is more than just what he appears to be."
Yeah, and I love, dude, the monologue that he has at the very end of the movie was like choice. Like it was so like obviously it's super fucked up, but like for me, like a story is written well if you have like a very interesting villain, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like he is like a budding serial killer, you know? Like, and I've watched a few crime shows and stuff like that. And, like the terminology he's using.
He's a straight up aspiring serial killer because he's like, I'm still trying to perfect my art. I'm trying to like practice my method. He's like, I'm still working on it.
I thought that was a cool, I don't want to call it a twist, but just like a cool plot point was that he's just like, it's just a kid who is becoming a serial killer, like who has experienced some kind of trauma in his past and now he's becoming a serial killer. Because like these movies usually just turn to like this guy's got a motive to want to kill the main character or something, but he just wanted to kill her. Like he just wanted to. Like
he didn't even want to kill her. He just wanted to see her die.
A dog. Like he just wanted to see. Yeah, exactly.
He literally says, "He goes, I just want to be here when you kill yourself. Like I just want to be here when you die."
It's
so super cool. I thought that was good.
Yeah,
it's not a crime of like it's not even like a crime of passion. It's like literally like he thought about it and is like, I'm making the choice to be here.
It's fully premeditated and disturbing.
Yeah.
But that was a cool like little action thing at the end, which kind of brings me to kind of a gripe with the movie.
Here it is,
where now they're fighting like Ethan and Anna, and she's got to escape, so she goes to the roof. And it's supposed to be this big thing. She has to overcome her inability to leave the house. And she does that in order to survive. And she walks out onto the roof. And my issue with that, I guess kind of an issue, is that, one, I don't think it was as impactful as it should have or could have been. Right? Because the whole point of this movie is her like not being able to leave this house. And so she does, and that should have been, or to me, I felt like that should have been more like like a weight off my chest. Like she did it, she left the house,
but she almost did it in stride.
But here's the two issues with that. One, when push came to shove, before when she thought the fake Jane Russell was actually being murdered, she did leave the house. Like she was able to do it. If she saw that and wasn't able to leave, I think that moment later in the movie would have been so much more impactful.
Yes,
to been like, okay, she was able to leave. The second problem is that she was on a roof. Like, she's still not safe.
Right, Joe.
That's where I'm like, that's why I didn't feel that relief either. Because I'm like, okay, she left, but she's still in her own property type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. If they wanted, Joe, that's exactly where I was going with this, right? If they wanted to, which I think they should have, because I think her being locked in the house was a big like plot point or like a big thing in this movie. It should have either been, if they wanted to keep doing the fight scene, make it into like a backyard or something. Like you could have easily written that into the movie, and then that would have had more impact where she gets out and then you could still do the fight scene. I think the roof is just a weird setting. Or better yet, to your point, maybe they have the fight scene inside the house and her escaping out the front door, and then the horror is over. There are two horrors that are over. Her being stuck in the house and the horror of her attempting to be getting
Yeah.
murdered, and then like cops come, whatever. Like you could write all that out, but like that to me, it just felt like nothing when she left the house. Like she
Yeah.
was just like, I'm out, and then like
It felt like
and
they
then I
gave
got
her
hit
a
in the face with a rake.
You know what the
Yeah.
nice moment
That
of
was
that
insane.
was? The way he died and everything, like going through the sky roof. Like, that's one of the first shots we see, too. Like, there's a big, like, they're showing, like, shots of the house.
Yeah.
And then the camera
The
slowly
skylight.
pans over to, like, see the skylight, like, come through. Like, it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day. And then you see the dark contrast of, like, the underside of the stairs and everything. And then it goes into the action of the movie. So I feel like that was a nice, like, foreshadowing of, like, here's where the crime scene happens, but we're not going to show you it until it obviously the end. Because there's a couple times that skylight comes up when
Yeah.
David also tells her that it's moldy, and then
Yeah. It's very clear foreshadowing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I honestly didn't catch it though.
Yeah.
I was like,
either.
oh, like there's a couple like highlights on this sky roof, but I didn't really put it together
I thought
until
it just
the
looked
end.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was
Yeah.
just gonna be like, oh, like this is a cool element to the house to like kind of like put you in the scene.
Once she went to the roof, I was like, okay, that's where it's gonna go. It's gonna end with him falling through
Yeah.
the sky roof. But leading up to it, I didn't think anything of it, and I thought it was
Did
good.
you think that gore was
filmmaking
gonna happen?
efforts.
Because I didn't.
No,
I
that
would
was
never
shocking.
guess
Smacked in the
that.
face with the fucking
I
little
was-
hand rake.
Yeah,
I
was
had to do like
absurd.
a double take. I didn't think they were gonna do that. I was like,
I was
that's
like-
actually that's insane. I thought she
Mhm.
died. I thought he literally just killed her. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was disturbing. But do you guys have
Yeah.
any other major comments you want to talk
A
about?
gripe about the fucking her getting the rake in the cheek was like, then it cuts to 9 months later, like after
There's
everything's
no
all resolved.
mark. Yeah.
I feel like taking a rake through your fucking cheek, like straight through,
I feel
would
like you wouldn't
leave
be
a
able to see
bigger
out of
scar than that.
eye.
I burned myself on a fucking bagel bite like 11 years ago, and there's still a big scar there.
I was
So,
gonna say,
how's a
like,
rake
pimples
not
can
gonna
leave
do
a
damage?
scar, let alone
Yeah.
like,
Like, what the fuck?
a rake to the
But Other
face.
than that, no, I don't have many more major gripes. That's the last thing I have written in my book.
yeah,
Yeah, I just again just to like capitalize on I guess talking about the villain, like obviously crazy fucked up situation, but like it's very like he's a very disturbed individual, and like that was
Mhm.
interesting, you know.
yeah. Let's play our game where
Play
you
the
guys guess the Metascore of this movie. Also, actually, because I want to do another quick fact that I found out. The first time this movie was released and like previewed to audiences,
Mm-hmm.
it got such bad reviews because everybody complained that it was so confusing and that like they didn't understand it, that they literally had to go back and reshoot it, which pushed back the actual release of this movie till this year.
I saw
Like
that.
this
It pushed
movie?
back a long time. Like
Yeah.
they've recast
It's been, like,
and shit too, right?
2 or 3 years that it was supposed to originally
Wow.
come out. Yeah.
I saw that.
But with
Paramount
that-
was supposed to do it, and then they sold it to Netflix, right? Because
oh, interesting. I don't know.
Like that.
I didn't go that far.
It was something like that. Anyway, Metascore. James, you want to guess first?
69.
69. Interesting.
What's too high? 57.
57.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is one of the reasons why it took me so long to pick this movie, because every time I was about to pick, I was going to do it. And then I saw this Metascore and it drew me away.
What?
41.
Wow.
What?
Yeah,
Right?
wow.
That is so
I don't
low.
agree. Yeah.
I don't
That is
agree.
insane.
Yeah. It's a
No,
41.
That is really low. Wow.
I thought
That's
that was
lower than
absurd.
Tomorrow War.
Yeah. Well, Tomorrow
It's
War I
lower
thought
than
was like
American Pickle.
decent. Yeah, American Pickle was like a 44. Like
How
how
American
That's
Pickle's like a
insane.
58. We talked about
That is
it.
insane.
it's absurd. It should not be that low. It's,
This movie's good. Like this
we need
movie's like
to-
actually good. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
It has
insane.
almost a
41?
6 out of 10 on IMDb, but
Yeah.
that's just
That's insane. That's
Wow.
like actually insane.
Yeah.
I think that makes me like not trust Metacritic. You know, like 'cause this
I
is a
don't.
quality movie.
I
I
just
don't
think this
know.
is a fun game.
Yeah.
yeah.
To be honest, I think Rotten
Alright.
Tomatoes is the most like accurate usually.
Yeah. I think what's fun about this is like we all know.
It's all
Well,
wild.
here we didn't know, but we all know kind of like where Metacritic would rank like a movie. Like we know that like a 70s on Metacritic is usually like a good movie, you know, and we know
Mhm.
like 80s, 90s, 100s. Now you're
It's
getting
like
into great
Oscar.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that seems low to me.
That's
I just
very
think
low.
this is a fun game. I don't agree with Metacritic most.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Okay. Are we
Huh.
double downing? And we'll start with James for this one.
Oh, I super double down. Love this movie. Definitely
Okay.
go watch it. It's worth your time. It's definitely a little gruesome. Definitely some adult themes, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, I'm doubling down too.
And that
Hey.
makes 3 of us. So we are
Let's
all
go.
pressing play.
Huge.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Good pick, Joe.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, I kept wanting to pick it for a while now, but I kept seeing those low scores, like
Yeah, it's
low
a good
ratings. It's
movie,
like,
dude.
oh, it's got to be trash. But it was actually really good.
No,
Enjoyed
very
it.
good.
And
Alright,
with that,
so
James, sign us out.
Yep. Send us out. Thank you all for watching the video to this point. We really appreciate it. If you are watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing. We're trying to grow our base, and it really helps us out if you subscribe. If you like this content or didn't like this content, please let us know down in those comments down below. Let us know what you want us to watch. Let us know if you have thoughts or takes on movies like this or other movies. Like we made a comparison to Shutter Island. What are some other movies that this reminds you of? Let us know. Or, talk to us on Instagram. We're on there all the time. Follow us at Flix_Fellas. It's also linked on our YouTube page. In addition, if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or other podcasting platforms, if you have the ability to leave us a review, it helps us out a lot on this platform, so please do so. Other than that, we appreciate that you stuck around to this point, and we love you. We'll see you in the next time.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.